The following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes. Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
Welcome back to Options Insider Radio, and we have two newcomers to the show today. They are Biju Kulithakul, Chairman and CEO of Trading Block, and Steve Hoffman, the product management specialist guru over at Trading Block. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark.
A lot of our listeners, I'm sure, are scratching their heads right now saying, what is this Trading Block that they are speaking of? So let's start there. Give our listeners a brief overview of what Trading Block is and what you guys do.
Trading Block is a new brokerage firm. We do online brokerage, and we help investors trade options. We do equities, options, indexes, but we make it very easy for investors to trade options.
Easy, that's a subjective term. Actually, before we even get into that, why don't we start even a little further? Give our listeners a little bit of both of your backgrounds in the options space and how you found yourselves at Trading Block.
Absolutely. Well, I started about 14 years ago in the options space as a quant for one of the largest market makers in the options space. Had a software firm that did software for market makers, and basically saw a big need for a brokerage firm to take options more to the larger masses than the very niche space it's in right now. So I decided to apply some of my knowledge from the institutional option space, and I also in between had some experience with. I was involved with a retail firm called Redbox. Redbox was like
yes. I'm sure a lot of our listeners know Redbox. Yes.
Yeah, I was involved very early on in this company called Redbox. One of the largest DVD rental companies in the United States. Grew from $0 to $1 billion in 5 years. So, with my interesting background in both the institutional option side and from some retail experience on the Redbox side, I thought there were some lessons to be applied to bring options to a larger marketplace than what's there right now. So that's how I got to where I am right now.
And Steve, same question for you, Steve. How did you find yourself starting a new online options brokerage firm?
Well, my background in the options business began about 15 years ago, just before Biju. And I started with a large options trading firm, and I started up their index options arbitrage group and grew that from about 2 people to about 20 people. And we were index option arbitrage specialists in all the major exchanges. And at that firm, I graduated beyond the index group and became the firm-wide risk manager. We were the third largest options specialist company in the country at that time. And after the firm grew to the point that it was to be sold, we sold the firm to another large bank, a foreign bank, and I decided to leave the firm for smaller pastures. I like small companies. And I had a couple of stints with a few hedge funds and did some proprietary trading. And 3 years ago, I ran into Biju again because we worked together in the past. Okay. And he told me what he was thinking of doing with Trading Block, and that he could really use someone with my skill set to help develop the tools for this sort of groundbreaking new approach to online options trading. And so we had some good discussions, and I joined the team 3 years ago, and so now we're focusing on developing these really cool tools for sort of like the common investor instead of the high-end guys.
Okay, so let's get into that a little bit then, because you've mentioned that there's room for making options easier for the average investor. You've mentioned this groundbreaking new approach. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people, the first thing they hear when they hear another brokerage firm is, what are you bringing to the table that's different than, say, an Options Express or a Thinkorswim or a Trade King? It sounds like you're going for that blue water type of space where the other guys aren't playing as much. So let's elaborate a little bit on that approach. What exactly are you guys doing that is going to make things easier for the average investor and bring in new people to the option space?
So, Mark, I can sum that up in one word. I would basically say simplicity. The problem in the option space right now, or maybe it's how the option space first evolved, is that there are all these companies serving the very active option traders. That, at the end of the day, is a very small percentage of the market. That's about 2% of all retail accounts, and that number doesn't seem to grow considerably. I mean, it's grown in a very small percentage terms, but not a lot. And what we want to do is we want to help a lot of people who have a sentiment in the market, so they feel like Apple's going to go up or Microsoft's going to go down, or the market as a whole is going to go up or down. But the only way they can take advantage of that right now is by going long or short and underlying. But that's probably about one of 40 different things you can do if you know a little bit more about the other instruments out there, especially options. And what we do is we have some tools which make it very easy to convert that investor's sentiment on the market to an actionable trade. And that's how we help investors. And that's how we're different than the other players like Options Express and Thinkorswim.
Obviously, the other brokerage firms have basic education stuff as well. So maybe let's get into a little more granularity about what specifically. Let's say your average investor comes to your site looking to make a directional play, or they want maybe some risk management in Apple, for example. What do you guys do that would be different than, let's say, on Options Express, where they kind of walk them through some of their basic educational stuff? What kind of stuff would you guys do that would be different for that investor?
Well, I can give you a little sort of background on how we look at that situation if someone does come to us with that thought. Essentially, in the current environment, if someone decides they want to trade options for the first time, they typically spend up to 6 months studying and educating themselves before they make their first options trade. And when they do make their first trade, on average, in the next 6 months, 80% of them lose all their money. So it's a very, very poor business model from the point of attrition. As Biju likes to say, it's like mining gold. You dig up a ton of ore and you might get an ounce of gold, and that's in terms of the clients you keep. What we try to do is get the client to his trade faster and give him a better chance of success with his own outlook on that stock. So, in sort of getting into some granularity of what you were asking, the tools that we've developed, we have a whole suite of tools. Some are completed, some are being designed, but they're all designed so that the average active stock trader who's never looked at options before can look at them and figure out how to use them within a few minutes. And once he uses them, he can find the strategy ideas that's going to convert his sentiment into the proper trade, or I shouldn't say the proper trade, but the trade that will best represent his outlook.
Okay.
As an example, we have a tool that you simply enter the stock symbol, your price outlook, and your target date. And then you click a button to find trade ideas, and it scans thousands of possible option strategies and comes back with the top 5 that have the highest profitability for your outlook. So we're not recommending any trades, but if you come to us and you say, hey, Apple in 3 months is going to be $500 or $300, pick something reasonable, you can put that information in, and it'll tell you which call spreads, put spreads, strangles, straddles, whatever option strategies that you want to consider. It'll tell you which ones are going to give you the best opportunity to profit from your sentiment.
That seems to be the big trend these days, the idea generation, especially for that audience you're going after, the basic retail. They love idea generation. The more ideas you can put in front of them for different strategies to have, I think the more they love it. Now, one of the things we've seen a lot of other firms have success with in a similar area would be paper trading, allowing the new investor to come in, sometimes having to make an account, sometimes not having to establish an account, and play around a little bit, play with fake money, play with the tools, kind of get acclimated that way. Are you guys offering something like that as well?
Well, we are actually going to offer paper trading. It's we've just launched a site a few months ago, so we are actually just maybe 2 or 3 months away from actually implementing paper trading on our site. But it's in the plans.
Okay.
because it's just like anything else. Paper trading is just a way to try something out. So our tools are worth trying out without putting on a real trade. So
I imagine for you guys too, UI interface would be an important consideration, because I would imagine part of the complexity that exists in the option space comes from the overwhelming amount of, you pull up a screener on your typical brokerage firm or some of their execution platforms. For the basic guy, it can be overwhelming because, you're seeing the market data coming in, you're seeing spread books over here, quote books here, different types of tools. And so I'd imagine UI had to be a big focus for you guys when keeping it simple, keeping just the relevant information in front of the investor.
It was a big concern, but Mark, let me also tell you, beyond UI itself, the way we think about design, and I'll let Steve speak to that too. We primarily think from the user experience. A lot of people think from the product. Everybody out there is a former trader or used to be a trader or a quant and is designing the product from a functionality standpoint. They're saying, this is great functionality. Wouldn't the average retail investor like to use it? We don't think about it from that standpoint. We are really thinking about the user experience. It all stems from, would the average retail user, would 10 or 15 million accounts, which we think is our potential account base, would these people find it easy to use this functionality if it was rolled out? And from ease of use, simplicity, how intuitive it is for someone to figure it out is how we think about it. So it's the UI is a big consideration, but beyond the UI, I think beyond the UI, there's a lot of information that's presented on option sites out there, option trading sites, option newsletters, which is completely unnecessary. I mean, it's most 90% of the information on most option sites is designed for 5% of the users. It makes no sense at all. In any other business, this would never fly. There's a reason why the iPhone was a top-selling phone. It's because people don't need all the information that the BlackBerry used to offer. So that's the way we think about our website.
And I would add to that sticking with the spirit of our easy, intuitive philosophy, we keep in mind at all times who our target clients are. If you think of the pyramid of investors, where the active option traders at the top of the pyramid and sort of the active stock traders in the middle, we're targeting those active stock traders who are not that familiar with options. They don't really know about all the esoteric Greeks and strange and rare exotic combinations and things, and they don't need to know that. They don't know that they want to know that. And so we like to use this, as Biju started to mention, this sort of overused comparison between Microsoft and Apple. We're absolutely trying to design a system where it's what you need when you need it and nothing extra, nothing else.
You mentioned going for these users that have more basic interests or maybe have been disenfranchised with some of the offerings from some of the other firms out there. But the option space has been pretty well carved up over the past few years with a lot of different firms coming in and targeting specific segments. So where are you going about, or I guess how are you going about finding and attracting these users who haven't already been lured into some of the other platforms or maybe have been disenfranchised? Where are you finding this groundswell of people who have options interest but haven't been pulled into the fold yet?
Well, what I see in the options market out there is all we have in the options market right now, although you've seen Options Express and Thinkorswim grow so much, is all we have really are the early adopters, are the people who will first flock to any market when it first comes out. These are the people in technology who buy the first version of a phone or of a computer or of a TV. But it's the same thing in the option space. All we have right now, although it looks like there's a lot of activity out there, it's mostly from these early adopters. And for a lot of other people who want to take charge of their own finances, want to take charge of their own investing, they don't use options in their portfolio.
No.
And our goal is, we're not trying to make these millions of people active options traders. That's the wrong direction. We don't think they should be active option traders. We want them to trade small, trade profitably. So those are the people we're going after, and that market is completely untapped right now. So you have this big gulf between people who are completely in stocks or use a lot in options, but there's not anyone addressing that space in between.
We just had the guys from the OIC in here earlier. That's kind of their mantra as well, which is, reach out to that retail audience that isn't trading options yet. It's a difficult task. Finding those people, and other exchanges in the past have tried it as well. The NASDAQ options market, that was their whole reason for being, was bringing in their existing stable of equity traders who haven't really migrated into options yet. And a lot of people have gone down that road in the past with mixed degrees of success. Obviously, NASDAQ, they're going probably for a little more institutional audience than you guys are. But still, the approach has been the same. So it's a difficult road to hoe. But if you can find that audience, it would be definitely a worthwhile pursuit. You mentioned too the other firms focusing on the 2 or 3%, as you said, of the very high end active traders. There are obviously reasons for that. Those traders generate a lot of darts on a daily basis. They generate probably the lion's share of the revenue for those firms. So for them, it's worth it to fight over that small amount of people, even if there is a decent amount of turnover. For you guys, by comparison, it probably would have to find a much larger account size of some of these probably smaller, less active traders in order to make it profitable for you guys. It's an interesting challenge you put in front of yourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's an interesting challenge, but I think if you look at the market like a pyramid, there are, like you said, there are the other option players fighting for the few users at the very top of the pyramid. I think there's a lot of money in the middle of the pyramid. I'd rather make $10 or $20 from 1 million users than be in Options Express's place right now, where they have, after being in business for 10 years, they've done a great job, but they've got that very active options trader who, and their account size, they have about maybe 300 to 350,000 accounts, and that's growing very slowly. And I think that market is tapped out for a lot of these other players. We're not interested in chasing that market. And the way I see it too, we don't, we have a lot of features that that a user at Options Express or these other firms look for. But at the same time, we don't see ourselves directly competing with Options Express. We're going after a different market. And that's, people don't see the potential of this market because very few people have gone after this market. Even OIC and the exchanges, a lot of their marketing efforts really end up attracting the institutional customer, which is why in our business, only about 5 to 10% of all the exchange traded volume is retail. The rest is all institutional. And it has a lot to do with how we go after that market. And what we find is there's a different way to go after this market.
One of the interesting things about this pyramid of potential online investors that Bijou mentioned is that the top of that pyramid, the 1 million or so active option traders that are already using the current popular online trading websites for options, they're sort of tapped out. But the middle of that pyramid, we estimate that there's roughly 10% of that pyramid is active stock traders who have never traded options. Now, that pyramid is roughly 50 million online trading accounts. So that gives us 5 million online trading accounts of active stock traders that are sort of our target market, and they're not being attracted or targeted by the current site. So that's a pretty sizable slice of the pyramid. We've done some analogies to figure out what we think the potential annual revenue might be from that slice of the pyramid, and it ranges, a large range between 5 billion and 10 billion per year if you tap the whole slice with the right product. That's a reasonable target, an attractive reason to pursue this area.
I guess one of the nice things about going after that audience that the other people aren't fighting over is you won't get dragged into that same fray where they have to spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars every year developing new tools to keep that audience happy, as well as tens of millions of dollars going after and competing with the other firms who are all spending the money to market to that small percentage of the options market.
Absolutely. I mean, these guys are all competing in the small pit where they're bidding up dollars for these new accounts. And it makes no sense after a certain point because some of these new accounts are not really even suited to be trading at the activity level that they trade for it to be profitable to be new accounts at some of these companies. And that's really not the market we want to go after. We want to go after somebody who's more interested in protecting their portfolio or taking upside positions with some protection and specific targets. That's the kind of customer we want to go after, because for that customer, during events like the flash crash or the end of 2008, they would really have been protected from having options in their portfolio. We're not. I'll repeat this again. We're not really looking for somebody who's the very active options trader, somebody who wants to, who's generating, $5,000 or $10,000 a year for a Thinkorswim or an Options Express. That's not our customer base.
And I have to ask before we wrap up, given your background with Redbox, are we going to see maybe trading block kiosks in the mall somewhere or something along those lines?
I would love to figure that out. We have a lot of different marketing ideas, but the kiosk is not one of them right now. But I will definitely keep you informed.
It would definitely get some attention, I think. If you people can go in, they can get their DVD, and next to it, they can put on a covered call maybe if they want.
Exactly.
Right there.
Well, guys, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, thank you so much. And we just think that we hope some of the listeners come and try out our site. We're in our first few months, but we've been getting some good new account activity. So.
Well, great. I'm glad you guys can make it on the show. I'm glad we can give you a chance to explain what Trading Block is to our audience. And we'll look forward to seeing some of these new developments on your site and with these tools down the road.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much, Mark.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Options Insider Radio. Be sure to visit www.theoptionsinsider.com for more episodes of this program, as well as breaking news from the options market, the latest articles and analysis from options experts, a wide variety of options education, and of course our discussion center where you can share your questions, comments, and insights with your fellow Options Insider users. While you're there, be sure to register for our monthly email newsletter, as well as our free email alert system. Our email alert system makes it even easier to stay up to date on the latest content from theoptionsinsider.com. Thanks again for listening. My name is Mark Longo, and I'll see you next time on Options Insider Radio.
Options Insider Radio was created by Mark Longo and produced by Gene Crotty. Options Insider Radio is a production of the Options Insider Incorporated, all rights reserved.